Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanum pukhair agale ni hao chunushum washmale. Ohaya Gonzaimes, Guten Morgen. Hola, bonjour, privyet, kaifa hal? Hare shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, swabi, bhalli kare aya, hosh kyal din nayo sayo, huya mora, chivato. Ji hal yud kalimera, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and are watching World this morning alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajar Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's not an off day for both of us. Hello Hajra, Assalamu Alaikum. How are you doing today?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for introducing me. Jazakallah khair. It's 1st of the May and also it's Monday. So my brother here mentioned about the gifts that he brought from the London and I'm waiting for those gifts. Certainly I'll pester him after the program and I'll get them. Don't worry about
Inshallah,
it.
Inshallah. Pakka kar lo, koi masla nahi hai.
Inshallah. So Shahzad, I was going through my feed and you know, so it's an era where there's a lot of discourse and conversation regarding mainstreaming, the diversity and always inclusivity, right?
Yep.
So recently Barbie doll has produced the doll which has a Down syndrome and they have also included that set of a Barbie doll into their vast collections. And obviously you have daughters, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And do they play with the Barbie dolls?
They play with a lot of Barbie dolls and I think that's exactly what I got them, you know, while I was actually roaming around, you know, making sure that I'm going to get that amount of exposure.
Okay.
So every time they would call me, they'd be like, Daddy, can you please show me my doll? And then, you know, so whatever dolls I've bought for them already, you know, so I would show them, you know, over WhatsApp or FaceTime as well. And they were really happy to see them.
Alhamdulillah, and I'm really glad that to hear that your daughters, mashallah, are playing with the Barbie dolls because nowadays you just see kids playing with the mobiles or glued to their, screens out there. But it's a good activity. I mean, playing out physically with the dolls, with the toys, and that also exercises your obviously a lot of confidence and obviously sportsman spirit and whatnot, because playing out with other people, with other kids out there, especially hones your other social skills.
Exactly.
So having said so, it's 1st of May.
Exactly, and I'll come back to that. But you know, I just want to kind of contribute to what you just mentioned, and that is exactly right. That imagine, so this time around, I made sure that I'm going to get Lego sets. You know, so things with which I think that their mental capacity to kind of manage things and do things can actually be understood and built up on. And that's exactly something, ladies and gentlemen, which I'm really happy about, because imagine that every single day, you know, ever since I touched down away in Pakistan, I'm making sure to fix those Legos for them. And, you know, they sit around, they're like, Daddy, if this one's not working, this one will work and whatnot. So, you know, it was hectic, you know, so we're only one packet left, you know, which we still kind of have to sort out as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I think Hajar has actually hit the nail on the head. It's the parents' responsibility to kind of find out that, you know, what are those commonalities with which even the parent and the kid can enjoy. And even if there's no commonality, I think you certainly have to do what the daughters are actually telling you to do or your sons are telling you to do. But please make sure that you're one of those productive parents for your children. Now coming back to that, it's 1st of May, what are we doing in our studios?
So it's the 1st of May and I do believe that Shahzad is very well versed with the history of the 1st of May, and obviously it's the Labor Day out there and we celebrate this day to obviously prize the downtrodden segment of a society, which is the labor. And I do feel that in a lot of countries, labor is really exploited. But Alhamdulillah, in Pakistan, we do have government protections in the force because government has increased the minimum wage to rupees 30,000, considering the fact that there is an inflation out there. But obviously, government has done its responsibility, but as a society, how much we are civically responsible that we are implementing them. I see there are a lot of still cases where kids are abused, where the labor is abused, they are exploited, they are not paid that much. But obviously, we will start our segment by because Shahzad.
Yes, obviously, you know, so if we are to kind of look at, you know, at the history and how, you know, May Day actually came into being, because a lot of countries refer it to May Day, because on the 1st of May, ladies and gentlemen, we are observing Labor Day or International Labour's Day as well. So I think I'll have to go back in time where it was 1886. And, you know, it was Chicago, Haymarket, Chicago, I think. And the people actually refer to it as Haymarket Massacre. And I'll tell you why. So imagine that on the 1st, what happened was that there were a lot of people, you know, who actually wanted to kind of sit down and protest because they had 15-hour-long working hours. And they demanded that we should have 8-hour shift, 8 hours, you know, to kind of chill out, relax, and do whatever in 8 hours sleep. And that was something with which, you know, which kind of gathered a lot of people, you know, at the Haymarket Square in Chicago. But, you know, eventually what happened was that, you know, it was a peaceful protest in the beginning. But eventually on the 3rd of May, you know, a policeman actually kind of took out their anger onto the protesters as well, and one of the protesters was killed. Then on the 4th of May, somebody threw in a bomb with which, 7 or 8 policemen actually lost their lives. A lot of protesters lost their lives as well. And then it wasn't until 1889 that they had kind of officially formed, formed a committee to kind of say that, hey, you know what, May 1st should actually be observed as Labor Day. And imagine that the government back there in the United States was too slow at that time of point, and it was because of the fact that in 1916, they kind of adopted this resolution that, okay, on the 1st of May, it's going to be Labor Day. But I think that the message really needs to be straight over here, because there are a lot of issues. I've jotted down a few as well. So, for example, the rights violations, for example, poor working conditions. For example, stretched working hours, low wages, child labor, and a lot of people with disabilities are begging on every nook and corner of our country. And we certainly really need to kind of value the contribution made by all of these workers to the development of the society.
And Shahzad, if you also observe the American history, you will find that's very brutal, especially with the slave trade and how they were exploited, and how all of the black people who came from the Africa, they were also, they were shipped to the America, and they were given just peanuts for such a sweaty labor that they had to go through. So we would like to kickstart a segment and introduce our guest and carry forward this conversation. So we are very glad that we have been joined by Hafiz Ehsan Ahmad Khokhar Saab. He is an advocate, Supreme Court of Pakistan. Assalamu alaikum, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. He's a wonderful cricketer himself, ladies and gentlemen, as well. And alongside him, we're very lucky that we've been joined by somebody who, first of all, happens to be the President Association for the Rehabilitation of the Physically Disabled, social activist, human rights activist, Ms. Anjum Anwar. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning. How are you feeling today?
Wa alaikum salam, good morning. I'm doing wonderful today. Thank you so much.
MashaAllah, wonderful. And last but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we have been joined by the Chief Executive Officer of SHAP Pakistan, who happens to be a human rights activist himself. He is Mr. Mudassir Javed. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. A very warm welcome.
Walaikum assalam. Thank you very much, sir.
So, all right, for all our viewers who are out there, so what we have done is that, when we have to talk about the legislation and what kind of laws do we have in place, we obviously have Hafiz Ehsan Khokhar Saab over here with us. When we are going to talk about people living with disabilities and then forced to beg on every nook and corner of the country, that's something which we will be talking about with Ms. Anjum Anwar. And, when we'll move on to Mr. Mudassir Javed, I think what we certainly need to kind of ask is that, okay, for all of those years of activism, how do you think that they have impacted the lives of the people we are talking about today? So Hajra, you want to take the lead?
Yes, the wonderful demarcation. Thank you so much, Azad. So Hafiz Khokhar Saab, like we mentioned, Constitution does afford a protection to the people who are labor, who are exploited, who are, underdogs of the society. But obviously society is not contributing, or we the people, we do not contribute a fair share, right? So let's start with the awareness. What sort of protections are in place in the Constitution? And also the government has also increased the labor wage or minimum wage to rupees 30,000. So if someone is not getting paid 30,000 exactly, what is that person's resort?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so much. 1st May is a very special day for the laborers, not only in Pakistan but all over the world. This is a day which is a recognized global holiday all over the world. It has the issues to address the demands of the 8 hours working for the workers, and especially to improve their working conditions to their workplace. So basically this is an area, and Shahzad already told that this is the history started in 1886.
Yes.
And the first meeting in consequence of that was held in Paris, France. And then they decided that 1st May, because there was a procession in Chicago, and they marked as a celebrated day. The 1st May 1890 is the first day for the laborers, and since then there has been a continuous struggle by these organizations, and there are certain international commitments, then there are the local legislations, and then finally the execution process for the implementation of these workers and laborers laws, not only other countries but also in Pakistan. So this is the background of this case.
All right. And so thank you very much for, kind of taking us through the background, and it's beautiful to kind of understand and learn every single day. But sir, now, if we are to kind of speak about Pakistan in particular, because Labor Day is an international day, so let's focus on Pakistan, let's focus on the people of Pakistan who contributed towards the development of the society. Now, we do know, as Pakistanis, that we are over-legislated, but the problem over here is that we do not see the implementation of that legislation to be in place, and that is, if you are to kind of go around with me in Blue area, there are a lot of newer constructions taking place. You would never see any laborer wearing a hat, no safety concerns,
yes,
no nothing at all. Who do you think will have this responsibility to kind of go and make sure that everybody is working in a safe condition?
Shehzad, there are two aspects. Okay. One aspect is the legislation made by the federal government and then by the provincial governments. And even after the 18th constitutional amendments, this subject has been devolved to the provinces. Okay. And in this area, there are three areas. One is the good working conditions. Second is the fair treatment. And third is the most important thing is that to provide an opportunity to have a safe working place, which you have already mentioned on it. So, externally it is the responsibility of the government to execute these labor laws in Pakistan, and the government has made legislation on it. First it was made by the federal government, and now it is a subject to the provincial government. All the provincial governments, they adopted the federal laws and made certain improvements in their laws relating to the labours in Pakistan regarding the minimum wages, and if you have a problem, then there is a tribunal, National Industrial Commission Relations Tribunal. You can go over there, you can address your complaints over there. But simultaneously it is also important for the employer in Pakistan that they should secure and implement these external elements which are necessary for the safe health and safe working conditions for the laborers or the workers in Pakistan, which is unfortunately a missing link. Despite the laborers have provided a lot of efforts for their organization and for improving even the financial aspect of the organization, but simultaneously they are being not treated in a way that they should be respected, they should be provided a secure environment in the working conditions, because ultimately they have their child, they have their family, and if you lost your life as a workers, no one is there to take the responsibility. So, on both sides it is the legal responsibility of the employer and also as well as the moral responsibility of the employer to provide a good working conditions environment for the workers, and number two, to have an equal and fair opportunity both in terms of the wages and both in terms of the safety in Pakistan.
Right. So, moving on to Ms. Sanjum. So, Ms. Sanjum, please enlighten us about what does your organization do, and since it's Labour Day, what is the significance of your organization with respect to this day? And also a lot of people or kids you would see, they are begging on the streets, they are begging on the the corners of the street, and obviously there is always a debate going on, so whether we should be giving money to those children or not, because at the end of the day we are strengthening the mafia that is operating at the back of that, right? So what exactly, and then there are a lot of intervention to protect the street children out there. So do you want to enlighten us about this your project of yours and the significance with related to the Labour Day?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I highly appreciate it. As you mentioned, as the president of Pakistan Association for Rehabilitation of the Physically Disabled, I see a lot of people with disability, especially physical disabilities, being abused and forced to beg. And as you said, around all the streets of everywhere, all over Pakistan, you see people with disabilities. And in fact, I personally think that it's our responsibility to give them choices. Since they are not given choices, they are not being skilled, they don't have opportunities to earn a respectable living. So ultimately, even sometimes their families encourage them to beg for survival.
That's true.
Or then they get the mafias get a hold of them.
Yes.
And in fact, in certain cases, I've heard saw so many documentaries where people are being, all these mafias kidnap children.
Yes.
And then they make them disabled, and then they, just put them on different corners to beg. So all these are human rights violations, of course, and they all should be stopped. And I feel like it's the responsibility of the state as well as the individuals and organizations like ours to raise our voices and to give these people opportunities and stop the abuse that is going against people with disabilities, and especially the children you talked about. I mean, it is so sad for me when I moved from USA, and I'm living in Islamabad, and I saw these children, where there's like millions and millions of dollars homes around, and these little children are begging for survival, and they're just on the street, and little girls, And I can see, and I know that they must be abused in some sort of fashion. So it's just very, very sad, and I feel like it's everybody's responsibility. We cannot just put the responsibility only on the state or the family. We have to make a collective effort to raise awareness and create opportunity for them to grow and flourish.
And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about as well. And there's another thing which I would want to ask you, but probably later I would want to move on to the Chief Executive Officer of Shop Pakistan as well. Now, I think it's more about awareness of the people. It's more about awareness of that labor class we were talking about today, where we have an entire day dedicated to them, which I believe obviously is not enough, but obviously it's going to create a ripple effect, and it will bring back those waves, and there will be more talks about it. Now, imagine, how do you think that you yourself, being an activist, making sure that that you work for the people whose voice is not being heard, are making sure that they are more aware of their rights, how to kind of probably go to people like Hafiz Hassan Khokhar Sahab and kind of knock the doors so that they get the justice that they deserve?
Yeah, thank you very much again. I'm in Pakistan. If you look at our history, or according to laws and everything, we have seen that over the years, Pakistan has been excellent and excellent in passing laws, and we have so many good laws. But the gap and the implementation is not properly there. As Khokhar Saab earlier mentioned, and you also mentioned, that we need to focus on to diminish these gaps. Otherwise, we have seen so many issues related to labor, especially conducive environment is not there. Then they have health and safety issues in Pakistan, and the awareness is very important. Government makes so many laws, and there are not proper deliberations at the community level where people should know what the laws are about their safety and security. But awareness through this media, nowadays we can bring media into spreading awareness among the people. And unfortunately, the people who are we are talking about, they are not access to that media channels that about their rights. And it's responsibility of, if you look at developing countries or developed countries, there's a gap, because developed countries take responsibility. The employers and the businessmen, they take ownership, and they provide all these facilities and protection environment for their laborers. In Pakistan, we see that we focus, or are like business heads or corporate sector or anybody, or factory owners, they focus on profit maximization. True. There is a gap in moral obligations. We should focus on moral obligations as well, so that if we have developed human resource, we can provide quality products, and it can enhance the confidence of the people we are talking about. And it's responsibility of, as you earlier mentioned, that it should be a collective responsibility of everybody who is engaged directly or indirectly with these people. And we have seen so many issues related to labor, there is no insurance, and there is no health and safety concept in Pakistan. Even in our homes or offices or big buildings, in hotels, we lack all these things. And there are so many people who without any awareness, without any protection mechanism, lose their lives over the years. And when I was coming today, and I told my son, he's just 7.5, and I told him that I'm going to record a TV program for Labor Day. And he said, what is that, Baba? I said, it's acknowledge the contribution of the laborers and their contribution for building society, and to create awareness among people to give their equal rights.
What did he say then?
He just, he said, Baba, people are, because there are construction going on in near my surrounding, and there are so many people with different clothes and all these things. And he said, people are working. right now, and you are going there to celebrate or acknowledge their services. Why they are not like having holidays? Your days off from office and everything.
That's true.
But this, I was like that was in my mind, and I was coming to studio, and that was very painful to hear about that. And the situation is that. And we really need to create awareness. We have very good laws, as Khokar Saab mentioned and ma'am mentioned. We have seen over the year, Pakistan has been in South Asia. If you look at, Pakistan has been like at the forefront. We have signed almost all the ILO convention, international conventions, especially 8 conventions which are directly related to our labor.
But actions speak louder than word, and I think that's something that we gather over here for. And thank you very much for explaining it wonderfully well, that what we really need to do. And imagine that this day is actually for those people working at construction sites, you know, primarily, because these are the one who have contributed to our society. But very quickly, we want to move on to Hafiz Saab. Now, Hafiz Saab, I think that this debate is actually going to be more interesting. So now let's see how organizations and the state mentality protect themselves. Number 1, daily wages. Okay. Number 2, contracts. Number 3, permanent employees. Now there is a major difference in the rights or what you can actually ask for if you're a daily wage. If you're a daily wager, they tell you today, pack your bag, go back home. You cannot go anywhere. You cannot go to any court.
Or maybe internships.
Even internships, which are not even paid over here in the country as well. So imagine that people are doing it every single day, that, you know, somebody who's going to be saint enough as well and kind of ask them, okay, yaar, aa jao naukri kar lete hain. You know, so for the first year or 2 years, they're just working day in, day out, nothing paid. So how do you think that organizations will actually stand behind these sort of agreements, daily wages, you know, contracts and permanent employees? Permanent employees, by the way, are the kings of the organization. But for people who are contractual and daily wages, does not have the same rights as the people who are permanent employees.
I think that is coming from a very personal
No, it's not. It's not, because that's what the debate is. That's how they protect themselves.
That's true. That's true. That is
Shehzad, the problem starts actually the status of the employee.
Okay.
If you have a status like a permanent status and you are a registered worker in Pakistan, then you have a certain forums in Pakistan. You can go to the labor tribunal, you can go to the NIRC, you can go to the court for the enforcement of the rights. But the problem starts in Pakistan. There is a lack of awareness about the registration of the workers. Even if you are not registered, you cannot take the incentives of the government schemes like the WWF. Then you have a national security cover in Pakistan for the social security department.
Housing scheme, something.
So many things relating either done by the federal government umbrella or by the provincial governments. At the federal level, there is an EOBI organization in Pakistan, and at the provincial level there is a social security department at the provincial level, and they are there to introduce certain schemes and to execute and help out the workers or their families in both in terms of their family assistance and for the education. So we need to have a mechanism in Pakistan that whosoever, either he is on a one day or either he is on a permanent with the organization, he should be provided an umbrella of law to have, if he has a grievance, he should go over there, and there must be a summary proceedings of that areas. Because if a worker who has a little bit salary in Pakistan like a 30,000 and you entered into a complicated legal process, so it would not make an exercise which is useful for them. The second aspect is, as far as we have another institutional mechanism problem in Pakistan, we have also this problem especially in the workers and the laborers in Pakistan. Though we have the laws, and most of the laws, they have the outdated laws in Pakistan. This has no consonance with the ground situation in Pakistan. Some even have before the pre-partitions, and some have in the 60s and 70s laws but now we are living in 2023. So the government has to adopt two-pronged strategy. One is to make a new laws relating first right of implementation of the wages. This is another issue in Pakistan. The government has decided about the 30,000 wages in Pakistan, but there are certain serious issues for the workers in Pakistan. They are not being paid as per the fixation of the government of Pakistan and by the provincial governments.
True.
And number two, the important area is if they have a problem relating to their working environment, safety issues, and a fair treatment, especially for have a working hours which is a fix of the 8 hours. if you go beyond the 8 hours, then should be a proper compensation for the working you have done for the organization. So, in both areas the government has to make a setup both at the district level, provincial level and at the national level by through introducing a mechanism. If you receive a complaint about the workers over there, it must be resolved within 7 days. If you go beyond the 7 days, then there is no useful purpose of and then there is an element of exploitation starts from first by the employer in the organizations, because first he is not implementing the laws in Pakistan, and second there is in his mind that if I will make a violation of these laws, there will be no consequences, and this triggers the problem in Pakistan. And the second most important thing is that not only this is the problem of the registration to the extent of the employer, but he has also been deprived from the legal benefits given under the different laws by the provincial government or by the federal government. So, there is a constitutional cover provided to the laborers in Pakistan, to the workers in Pakistan, and there are so many categories. There are housemaid workers in Pakistan, there are factory workers in Pakistan, the workers working in the government organization, the private organization. So, we need to implement and execute our international commitments signed with different international organizations, the constitutional cover, the national law, and particularly the implementation status at the ground and the district level, because this is the trigger point.
So, sir, very quickly, Hajra, very sorry. So, imagine that, God forbid, I've been working at a construction site for 4 or 5 days, right? And all of a sudden when I actually go to them to ask for, whatever I need to be paid, imagine that they deprive me of that. What do you think is the first step for me? Do I go to a police station? Do I come to an advocate? What do I do, as a laborer?
No, there are two areas. If you are in an organization and you are a registered worker and you made a union, and if you made a union, then there is a legal contact between you and the employer, and then there is NIRC.
Okay.
And if you are not part of the employee, then there is a labour's tribunals working at the district level and then at the authorities. If you have a problem about your wages and the working conditions over there, you can go to the labour office in a district. Okay. You can file your complaint and he is bound to address your grievances. But simultaneously the important starts the status of the employee. So, I must emphasize on that if you have a 1-day employee or the 7 days employee or the 30-day employee, because we have a 89, you have in your mind that we are giving a contract of 89 days, and if we beyond the 90 days, then there is a legal consequence. So, we should abolish this practice. Okay. We need to implement the law, and the law is if you are working for an organization for 1 day or more than a 1 day, your status should be declared within your organization and with your government organizations, because this is a major area where you can enforce the laws and get the incentives. For the sake of argument, if you are registered with employer and with the government organization, because there are certain organizations they are bound to register, and this is a mandatory. Yes. That you are to be registered, and for the sake of, if you are injured over there, then you have insurance cover by the government organization, and if you have yes. died unfortunately, there is a death grant as well. And if you have a problem with the marriages of your daughters and children over there, then there is also the incentive of the government at the province level. So, we need to implement the laws, and we don't need to be worried about that. If we have a worker or more than 30 or 60, then you have to pay a compensation, but a little compensation is not an issue, but ultimately the rights of a worker and the rights of those people who are working for your organization and they make money for you. True. And they put your the hard work for you and for your organization, this should be paid in a proper way and need to be implemented in letter and spirit.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Certainly our constitution affords a lot of protection to the labour class out there, but obviously how do the people who do not have access to the justice or who are not very well versed in the legalities of the constitution, how when they interact with the constitution or the legalities of the technicalities of this, I mean obviously it's not an easy pie to grapple with, right? And we are going to continue this conversation forward, but after a short break.
Good morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for staying tuned. Just when we went for a break, Hafiz Khan Khokar Sahab actually mentioned that 1st of May actually happens to be his birthday as well. So happy birthday, sir. Kisi ko to mehnat ka sila mila. So congratulations to your parents as well.
Wonderful.
Yes, so Haja, why don't you continue with what you left us with?
Okay, so Anjum, we'll move forward to you. So, there's an entire economy which is associated with the sympathy, because you mentioned that how kids who are disabled or whose limb have been cut off, or maybe hand have been cut off, they're begging on the streets, and people give them money because of the sympathy. So I would like to call it a sympathy economy, right? And obviously you also mentioned that how there's an entire mafia which is exploiting that cause and which is benefiting from that entire, what do you call, the beggary money, right? How do we break this dark nexus and make sure that those kids who are begging on the streets, they are mainstream in the society, because their place is not begging on the streets, their place in the schools, acquiring the education, and they are the future of the Pakistan in the first place. So what are some of the intervention which your organization has done in this regard?
Well, we have an inclusive school where we are educating street children.
Wonderful.
And children who are already doing some sort of a labor.
And are they willing to go to those schools?
Yes, well, you have to do a lot of counseling to their parents and
That's
the
what I
kids.
was about to ask.
Yes.
And the kids, but we have been successful in convincing some of them to come to our school, and alhamdulillah, they have been enrolled and they're making good grades, and some of them do go back to work afterwards, but at least they're giving the opportunity, because see, the thing is, the child labor is something very, very different kind of an issue in Pakistan. We talk about child labor internationally or all over the world, but in those countries, children do not support their families, because if you really think about it, if a child is working in Pakistan, one child is supporting the whole family, because either the father died or father has become disabled or something has happened, and now the whole family is depending upon these 1 or 2 children who are just going out begging. So it's kind of a very tricky situation, and again, I would say that the state, the society, the non-profit organizations, and individually, everybody has to create opportunities for those children. So instead of begging, they're going in schools, and somehow they're making. So in other countries, the state is available to take care of the people who are having issues. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, we don't have that type of setup. So children are forced to go and earn their living.
And in addition to that, there's one more thing, and that is that obviously so let's go 50-50. So 50% of the people, they certainly are forced to do so.
Yes.
50% of the people like doing it as well. So imagine that I've been on the streets, and Allah gave me this opportunity where I was like, hey, you know what, so we have jobs for you, let's go, let's get you sorted as well, and let's get your life sorted. And they started running away. That's not what they wanted to do. They want to sit down, take a lot of money home, and that for what? For doing nothing. And I think that's something, and that too even without an investment. How do you think that we are going to bring down? Because I've had so many people from different NGOs. We've had so many people, who were public organizations representatives, that they were willing to kind of take in all of those children, send them to school. Even Shehzad Roy, imagine he was paying people to be at his school. Didn't really work out as well. I mean, obviously, a lot of people did kind of contribute to that factor. A lot of children were learning from there onwards as well. But then people certainly want to relax, be at a chowk or a churangi, and then be like, Sahab ji, 50 rupees to de do. It makes them easy. And the concept in the heart of the people is, yaar, humne Allah ki raah mein dena hai na. But theek hai, hum question nahi karte ki kya hai, kya nahi hai.
That's true.
How do you think, what sort of a plan needs to be developed or designed with which we can get them to schools and have some good careers, lucrative careers for them?
Well, first of all, I don't think we should be supporting the beggars, of course. I mean, I never do. I only support the people who I really know that they're deserving, and
but how
so
do
many
you identify them on the streets, especially?
No, not on the streets. So there's a rule. So there's a rule, and Allah tells us, obviously, first up it's your parents, then it's your family members, then it's your friends, then it's people who work for you, and then Allah says, okay, whatever you left with, now you can give it in my name. That's how it is.
It should be, if I may allow, it should be a two-pronged strategy. One strategy is we need to implement the begging laws in Pakistan. We should ban and abandon all these areas.
Yes.
And second, the importance is we should also work on the parents of our children. There are another two areas. One are the professional beggars, and the second there is a forced to have for their livelihood in Pakistan. So, the first thing is that we should take these people from a school and then also support the parents as well to live their families, because if we are not supporting their parents, if they have a problem, then ultimately he has two options. One option is he has to send his child to a workplace, or otherwise the easiest way to go on the street and get the money from the public, and ultimately he would be a useless for the society as well in Pakistan. If you have an early age starting begging on the streets, taking a money in an easy way, then ultimately you will be in a condition and have an environment, you will not be more useful for your family, for the country. And even if you have later on a stage you have a marriage, then again you are trickle down your effect to the other children, and so it is a continuous problem in Pakistan.
True.
Right, yeah. Mudassir Saab, moving to you. So, like Shehzad mentioned, there is this state mentality out there, and in Pakistani context, when we talk about the labor rights, let's come to this point of the brick kiln bondage labor, because a lot of people, a lot of kids who are working in those brick kilns, their fathers are in the bondage of some states, and obviously to pay off that debt, they send their children, and that's a very vicious cycle because they are siloed in that the building.
It's like having a credit card.
Yes, they are siloed in that building and they do not have rights to anything else. And obviously, government has abolished this practice, it has banned it, but underground it's still going on. So, since how can we induce that behavioral change where we can permanently abolish that practice so that it's not even reported in underground?
Well, it's in the Constitution of 1973 that Article 11, if you look at that, it says that forced labor, or it's about bonded and forced labor. But again, there's the lack of implementation and will. There is no will, and the people are exploited just because due to poverty issues, there to safety and security, and there is no protection in our laws, in our society, and the people are like, they are not. We have seen the human trafficking, forced labor and child labor is there just because of the awareness. They don't have that awareness, they don't have right places to go, and there are so many stories which we come across that even our very dignified communities, very white collar communities are engaged in these exploitation. Because if you look at the stories from different areas, especially bonded labor, there is a Lair community which have this, sorry to say Saab, but there are also, like, there are different kind of people at different stages. They are involved in these kind of things, which jeopardize all the government efforts or political efforts at every level. How
we can makes it way. So, yeah, we really need to accept it. Money makes its own way.
Yeah, that's true. And how we can stop it? We need to educate people. We give them awareness about their rights. We need to facilitate them. We need to promote and protect children rights and give incentives to the parents. Or we need to talk to those people who are behind these things, who are exploiting these people, especially the forced labor and bricklayer mafia. Government earlier on started campaigns to go and register and check all that, but these are administrative issues. Government doesn't have that capacity, or they don't have those resources to visit every bricklayer or check their record or see how they are there, and that's why due to these gaps these things are being.
Sir, I think otherwise, and it's because I've witnessed it with my own eyes that the government seriously knows where the problem is, they can fix it even today, but it's just that the socio-economic of the society won't run then.
Yes, yes.
And we certainly need to have those prerequisites in place. But very quickly, I would want to share the other side of the picture as well, because I do believe, sir, that there really needs to be some prerequisites, some basic foundation for the laborers even out there, some sort of education with which they enter into the market. Now imagine, that, you know, how many people do we know? Haja, you certainly, you know, you built a new house, mashallah, in DHA, you're a rich lady. You know, was it built on time just because the labor wasn't available, because the ठेकेदार were busy somewhere else?
Yes.
You know, he had taken a lot of other work as well. Imagine the staff which actually help us every single day, you know, so 3 days prior to Eid, he went to see his wife in Multan, and then in Eid, you know, there was another 4 days off as well. So how do you think that we are going to protect the rights of the people or the employer as well? I think we need to talk about that over here, because people, unfortunately, and it makes me so sad, you know, every single morning we wake up 7 a.m., we make sure we do not take any days off, we work, you know, we make sure that our lives are better, our kids are being fed as well. Shukr Alhamdulillah. But sir, I do not see this struggle in the people from that very lower segment we are defending today. They do not want to work.
Shehzad, first I like to add on the bonded labor side. The first suo motu on this subject was taken by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and first time they have decided that the bonded labor is a violation of the fundamental rights in Pakistan, and have given the jurisdiction to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and it starts in the late 80s. And then no on, there are so many workings have been done by the provincial governments for this, but despite there is an institutional lack of capabilities or capacities, the problem is going on. The second issue is most important. We have traditionally in Pakistan, we have lack of the professional approach.
वो काम ही नहीं करना चाहते सर, मेहनत ही नहीं करते।
वो उसकी दो वजह है ना जी, उसकी
तरक्की कर जाता है बंदा वरना।
If this worker has gone to a UAE or like a Europe, so he is a more disciplined,
more productive,
yes. He makes money, he sends remittances to Pakistan, and he is gaining a good status in Pakistan. Yes. But this worker, the identical work, when he comes in Pakistan and he is doing over there, he is casual, he is not caring about his working hours. If there is a time of 8 a.m., he will come at 10 a.m. and if there is no holiday, if there is no problem even with his family, he says that there is a death in my family, I have a problem with my relatives. So there is traditionally a casual behavior in Pakistan. And the other side as well, there is also a lack of professional approach in Pakistan. We have workers in Pakistan, but they are not skilled workers over here. If you go for even for a driver, there is no certification of a driver in Pakistan. If you go to have even for your small problem over here, and you need to ask to someone, have you certified on this aspects? They are saying that this is not, I am not a certified, but I can on this. So we need to have.
I've seen dentists on a railway station.
Yeah, dentists on a railway station, and if you go on for a cook, you can't find there is a certification on it. So simultaneously, it is also important for the government, because these workers or these laborers, they are not used to in a professional way. If you train them for a 30 days or for 60 days and send to a workplace, they will be more organized, more disciplined.
So you agree with me that we really need to have this prerequisite?
Definitely, definitely. But why this is happening in Pakistan? It is happening in Pakistan. It is overall culture in Pakistan. There is no problem with the work. If you go on the government side at 10 a.m., you will not find all the office and all the people who are over there. You can find over there.
And the reason they share is वो हम रात को late बैठे.
रात को late बैठे
हुए थे. What were you doing?
Then there is a problem. If you go over there, then there is no complaint mechanism over there. If you have a problem with any government organizations, there is no mechanism to address over there. So generally we have a casual attitude in all the segments of society, and it is trickle on, start from the up to the bottom. So we need to address on this and strictly on the implementation of law and to train. If for the sake of argument you have a construction worker over there, just have a 30 days training over there. This is your responsibility. This is your safe areas. This is your, I mean, the areas where you can lodge a complaint. This is your area. If you have a minimum paid by your employer, you have a forum over there. So certification is very, very important to improve the society's culture in Pakistan.
Sir, I do see a change. Mudassir bhai, I would certainly want to kind of, you know, I would want you to give that time to us as well, and where you want to share your thought. But just, you know, very quickly, I want to contribute over here that I've seen a change. It's not that you know that's how the position is now. For example, you go to F6, F7, we do see street art taking place now. You know, people do not want to beg. We see this golden man, silver man, you know, people with breakdance moves and whatnot. So they're making sure that they're not begging and that it's more respectable to show their talent and showcase it to the people. But eventually, I saw this golden man's interview on television the other day, and he was crying. He said that people are trying to bang their cars into us. You know how?
Or making fun of them.
You know, how do we make them understand? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, I'll start from there where he finished, Khokhar Saab. Actually, I mean, there is a lack of commitment at labor's end as well. I mean, if you look at their routine or they are not serious in their work, they don't want to progress somehow. But I mean, if we train them properly, give them opportunities, give them, and when we interact with the international community, like especially German officials and people from other countries, they need labor. I mean, even US needs so many nurses,
labor,
and they need trained people. And if we ask them, we have so many people out there who can go and serve in their countries, but they say, I mean, if we make comparison, they don't find Pakistani workers that skilled when they have from different other countries, if you make comparison. So that's where government or institutions should come forward and invest human resource, develop human capital, so that they can go and earn respectable money and support Pakistan as well. So coming back to your point, it's very difficult, seriously it's very difficult to work on this on attitude or improve people's behavior, because we are not, somehow we are, sometimes we are not serious, we are non-professional sometimes. I'm really very sorry. We have,
that's true, I agree with that.
I mean, we are running all the time to make commitments. Nowadays, we see young people joining. You were talking about volunteer internship and this and that. Some people call us that we want to come, your organization want to contribute, but when we call them, they will come, they show up a couple of times in a week, they won't. Even we give them incentives. Volunteer work is not like free. You have to incentivize, pay at least some amount, but I mean, they take things very casually. We have learned, from our elders that you have to show commitment, because work is all related to your add value into organization and to your work, what you are doing, and we really need to. And it's even if we look at our religion, the people who work and contribute for earning for their families, there is a high respect and regard for them.
Exactly.
So we need.
And sir, I'm an avid believer. You know, every single morning you wake up, you dress up, and you show up, ladies and gentlemen. You'll have a better lifestyle, inshallah. And that's something which,
and that too on time.
You know, Allah's promising you as well. That too on time.
Yes.
And there's one more thing, very quickly, because we have to wrap it up as well. So I would want you, Ms. Ajum, to wrap it up for us as well. And that is that the problem is amongst ourselves. You know, it's within us as well.
Yes.
God forbid if somebody just got married to a beautiful wife who can cook well, he can do anything better than anybody else, or probably the husband, either way around, we'll still be able to complain about them, right? You know, if we weren't in the right mood. How do you think we get to this better mindset where we kind of protect each other's rights, where we make sure that there is no human rights violations taking place and be the voice for the other person? God forbid if we do know that they do not belong to that segment of the society whose voice will be heard.
So who's the labor, man or woman?
Both of them. Both of them.
Okay.
Well, before I get to answer your question, I would like to enhance, you know, the conversation that took place. I wanted to say
something. We only have 2-3 minutes, okay?
Yeah. So you know, one thing that I have realized, and I don't know if you all know or not, but I'm an American citizen, moved from USA, and I'm running this disability organization here. One thing that I have seen that we need to develop, and that is work ethics and taking pride in your work. I have realized that people work here just for money or just to be there. They don't take pride in working, you know, and that is very important, that you work and you take pride in it. You do a good
take ownership.
job. No matter if you are brooming this floor, but you do it the way where you can tell people that this is how my work is, and the work should speak. Over here, we have lack of that. So we should train people to take pride in their work and the work ethics. And the other thing is accountability.
True.
Like he said, it's very important to make people accountable and have procedures, so where people, audits and through different ways, so people are accountable for their behavior.
Right.
And what you said and your question.
Yeah, so I think just because we're short on time, so we'll have to cut it over here as well. But thank you so much for being with us, and that too on your off days. It was great to have you over here, and for all of that domestic stuff you have, or probably people out there, please make sure that you look after them. Make sure that you look after their families as well, and it's very important. And Haja, very quickly, where you said that, either it's the man or the woman, it's very simple. The formula for me, it is that, so whoever is good at professional work goes to professional work, and whoever is good at personal work goes to personal work. Because by the end of the day, both of these things are work, ladies and gentlemen. Do not consider that somebody sitting at home is not work, it's work. And that's a 365 days work.
So until next time, it's a goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and happy Labour's Day.
Good morning.